I'm joined today by Dr. Twange Kasoma, who's an assistant professor of mass communications here at Emory Henry. You've been here for 2 years, and you're offering a very exciting opportunity in the spring, and you're on here to talk about it. Thank you so much for coming on today.
It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, so tell me a little bit about this opportunity that you're offering in the spring for students.
In the spring, I'm going to be offering a class entitled Journalistic Practices in Zambia. And that class is going to culminate into a trip to Zambia early part of summer.
Okay, so kind of what is the class and what is that going to entail for students? What are they going to learn in the actual classroom?
In the actual classroom, we're going to tackle the history of the media in Zambia, right up to contemporary times. In fact, we're going to compare, how the media have evolved in Zambia over a period of time. And then we're also going to look at Zambian culture. It's going to be somewhat of a cultural enrichment program for the students. And then we are also going to talk about internship opportunities, for students whenever they get to Zambia. Last summer, I spent my time in Zambia consulting different media managers on getting some of our students to work for them. And so I made connections with media managers in print, broadcast, and news agencies. So they're all, excited about having students come and work with them.
All right, and this class is for both mass comm and non-mass comm majors, so that it's open to any student. So what can students who are not mass communications majors expect to get from the class?
For students that are non-mass comm majors, the class is also going to involve working for what we call non-government organizations, and we have quite a few of those in Zambia. And so one of the ones I have lined up for students that are not in mass communications is an NGO that focuses on HIV/AIDS in Zambia. Most people do not know that the southern part of Africa is ravaged by HIV/AIDS, and so there's a lot of non-government organizations that have come up to try and help out people that are infected and affected by HIV/AIDS. And so people that are not mass comm majors can come and work with the NGOs, work with HIV/AIDS orphans and see how they can help.
Okay, so what are some of the things that they're going to be doing as far as with the HIV/AIDS patients?
Taking care of them, the orphans, just being there to show them that somebody loves them. So,
you said NGO. Now, what is that exactly? And because most people here probably haven't heard of an NGO, so what is that?
An NGO is a non-governmental organization. That's what it stands for, and it's mostly organizations that are not affiliated to government in any way and are not affiliated to private sector, but depend on donor funds to keep them running. And so they get money from even U.S. taxpayers to get our programs going.
So it's kind of a version of our nonprofits, sort of?
Yes, okay. Precisely.
Now, tell me a little bit about the trip itself. They're going to go to Zambia, and they're going to be able to get involved in both the communications and the NGOs. What are they going to be learning over there?
The people that are going to be doing communication, obviously they're going to be learning about, how to practice ethics from an African perspective, which is kind of different. Like ethics is culturally sensitive, and so when they go to Zambia, the ethics that they're going to practice as far as the journalism profession is concerned is going to be so different from what they're used to practicing here. And so they'll learn, about ethics from an African perspective. And then they'll also learn about, the differences between media ownership. Like for instance, most of the media in the US are privately owned. And then when you look at the Zambian case, most of the media are government owned. And so what are the differences in, practicing journalism in an organization that's privately owned as opposed to that is government owned.
So what are some of those differences? We talked about them earlier. Kind of have a little less freedom and things like that. What are some of the things that those journalists have to deal with that journalists here don't have to deal with?
The one that comes to mind right now is that of autonomy. If you work for the media that are government owned, mostly when you go into work in the morning, you find that an editor has already assigned stories for you. So you don't necessarily have that autonomy to pick what stories you want to cover and what you don't want to cover. Here, on the other hand, in the US, you have more autonomy to cover whatever stories you want to cover. So, that kind of difference in terms of freedom, like you have more freedom to be creative, to come up with your own story ideas, whereas journalists in that part of the world are not that free. So
right, and something I thought was really fascinating is that the communications majors have an opportunity to kind of branch out and kind of focus in the field that they want to go into and kind of separate. Tell me a little bit about that, because people can separate into TV and radio and news writing. Tell me a little bit about the opportunities that each of those groups are going to have.
Initially, when I envisioned this trip, coming from a print background myself, I was thinking more in terms of like, I'm going to go and talk to media managers in print and they get the students set up with newspaper internships. And then as I was in Zambia, I realized like, some students are not necessarily interested in print. They want to do, radio, or they want to do TV. And so I diversified, talked to media managers in radio and TV. And so like the ones in radio are looking for DJs, that are going to come in with, American accents to kind of like present to the Zambian people. And then the TV people are looking more for people that are going to help with talk shows. We have a lot of talk shows on politics. And so they're looking for people who can come in and, give, talk about politics from an American perspective and then kind of make a comparison with, people that are there and, see what they can learn from each other, what the U.S. citizens can learn from, or the U.S. citizens can learn from the Zambian journalists, and then the Zambian journalists can learn from the students from here. It's
definitely a great opportunity for people to kind of find a focus. So you are originally from Zambia, so
yes.
You're doing this from your own experiences, and tell me a little bit about your background in Zambia and why you decided to make this trip for these students.
My background in Zambia is I got my undergraduate degree in mass communications with an emphasis in print media, and then started working for a newspaper called the Zambia Daily Mail. And then from the Daily Mail, I moved on to a news agency known as PANOS, which is funded by taxpayers' money from England. And then from there, I kind of did my own thing where I freelanced for a news organization known as All Africa News Agency.
All right. So tell me a little about why you think this trip's really important, and any study abroad trip's really important for students.
I think this trip is really important for students because there's this saying that goes, no man is an island, and so you can't just stay in your own comfort zone and not see what the world has to offer. And so, I think this is like a perfect opportunity for students to go out there and see what the world has to offer. You have like a better appreciation of yourself, of society, and of the world at large, if you travel. So.
All right. Well, if students are interested in this trip, they can contact you, correct? And they can sign up for the class in the spring. Thank you so much for coming on today and talking with me about the trip. It sounds like it'll be a very exciting experience.